I mean, I think so. I don't know that it's going to help impact or improve air quality directly, but at least it will start to sort of shed some light on the disparities between neighborhoods and how we do have heat island effects in locations that are heavily concreted and there are lots of roads and no trees, right? And so I think this is a really good start to sort of the discussion about planting more vegetation and more sort of canopy, tree canopy to shade some of the streets, and also with the co-benefit of improving air quality. I think that's probably all that I have to say about the heat mapping. I know that when we did the health impact assessment for the I-45 expansion, that heat islands were something that was noted in that research. And so it just sort of goes to show the results of the development patterns that have been promoted in the region for the last several decades, and where are the problems and how do we sort of mitigate those issues with natural solutions. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Paige. Yeah, probably we can move on to the idling questions. And so the first one we got was a comment that in the 90s, I became aware that Spring Branch school buses were idling the whole time. Kids were leaving classes and getting loaded into their bus. That was a lot of exhaustion. I think I was told that there was nothing the district could do about it. Has that changed?
So school bus idling is something that's close to my heart as well. I know that, so Air Alliance Houston a couple of years ago was able to successfully pass an anti-idling ordinance in the city of Houston, which basically made idling for more than 15 minutes at a time. And there were different conditions, right? It had to be a diesel engine over 14,000 pounds, made before 1993, or I forget the year exactly. But basically, if you had an older diesel vehicle, you weren't allowed to idle it for more than a given amount of time. And we were able to pass that ordinance, but the city basically told us that it wasn't going to be enforced. It was sort of voluntary compliance because they just didn't have the resources. Houston Police Department didn't have the resources to go around and give tickets to idling trucks when they had sort of bigger fish to fry. We also were able to work with HISD to get anti-idling bumper stickers put on all of their school buses. And so it says like engine off, this bus is not supposed to idle for more than 5 minutes at a time. Again, I think there's an issue about compliance and enforcement that like, yes, this is a great idea. And this is something that we espouse and we don't want, diesel exhaust around our children, but it's not something that's being necessarily enforced or in practice. I know that at my daughter's school a couple of years ago, maybe last year, 2 years ago, I walked into the school, there was a bus idling outside and I spent a few minutes in there. And by the time I came back out, the bus was still idling. And so I went and knocked on the window and I said, "Hi, excuse me, can you please turn it off? I know it says no idling." And the bus driver got really defensive about being asked to turn off the engine and said that he wouldn't do it and that he was only going to be there for a few minutes, etc. And so I think there's possibly a disconnect a lot of times between the policies that are approved and, from the top down and the application and practice by the people who are driving the buses and things like that. I know that another recourse is for schools individually to adopt anti-idling policies. And we've worked with different PTOs and student government associations to say, kids, you are the leaders of your school. Put together a petition drive for all of the students and the teachers and the faculty and the parents to have your school adopt anti-idling zones and anti-idling policies. And this can be for not only the buses, but also the parents who are waiting in the carpool line. And so it's really more of a localized solution, I would say, that each school individually, if they want true compliance and enforcement, needs to have that policy at a campus level so that they can sort of monitor the enforcement of it locally, because someone from the district isn't going to come down and do it. You really need to have individuals on the campus who have a vested interest